Hey everybody, this is Dream, and today we have a 7-game slate that starts at 2 o'clock Eastern, so do keep that in mind today. It's early slate. Before I get started, can you guys smash that like and subscribe button? Let's go ahead and get into our pitchers real quick here. So we're going to start with Justin Steele. He's got a 15 to 23 range today. I do think I like some of the San Francisco bats today as they have good metrics versus him, though he's not likely to give a shutout here. A couple earned runs may be in play, but if he can get 7 strikeouts, he should have a decent day. So you could even use one or two San Francisco bats in your lineup if you really have to, if you utilize them. Then we'll look at Merrill Kelly for Arizona. Now he's got a high ceiling and a low floor. A 15 to 25 fantasy point range today is most likely. He has managed 27 fantasy points 20 days ago versus Colorado, in Colorado for that matter, which is actually harder to do than it is in Arizona. I think he's a great option on the slate and has really nice upside, though he has been somewhat streaky lately. Then we'll look at Barrios for Toronto. Now he's got a nice boomer bust uh, game here against Oakland. He's had some really good games lately, but he's also had some really bad ones, giving up a lot of earned runs. That said, he's facing a weak offense in Oakland and has some nice upside on this particular slate. And then we'll look at Reagans for Kansas City. Now, I do think some Chicago White Sox rather, are in play today, but he's a good Hail Mary since joining Kansas City. He started 7 games, and in 5 of those games, he's been over 20 fantasy points. 4 of those games, he's been over 28 fantasy points. And the White Sox are probably one of the weakest teams he's played in a while. So I think he's got a great opportunity here to have a good game, and he's nice and cheap, and he's a very interesting play on this particular slate. Moving into our catchers here, we'll start with Cal Raleigh. Now, he's very close to being a core play today. He's just been somewhat boomer bust throughout the season. He has some run metrics here, but he hasn't had a lot of big fantasy point games. Though he's not super expensive today, he's still a little bit more expensive than I like, and he does need to hit a home run to pay off here. Then we'll look at Salvador Perez for Kansas City. He draws some good metrics here. He's also kind of boomer bust. He's been a home run hitter throughout the season, but he's really been inconsistent outside of the home runs. But he does have multi-hit potential as well, and he doesn't need to hit a home run to pay off, but he definitely would, benefit him today. And then Yanir Diaz for Houston. He's a very good play today as he's hit the ball very well. He's a great contrarian option as he's hitting the ball for good amounts, and and he's not too expensive and can definitely pay off without a home run. Though a home run would definitely be a boost as he is capable of that as well. The catcher is a very good position today, I think, from that perspective. Excuse me. Moving to first base, we'll look at Cody Bellinger for the Cubs. Now, he has been on a tear, averaging over 12.5 fantasy points a game for the last 10, and he's had 3 home runs in that stretch. He's had 16 RBIs. I think the Cubs are going to be a big stackable team today. He's got a lot of upside. He's had 3 home runs in the last 4 games as well, and he draws really good metrics for this game, and he has a lot of potential to be a great option on the slate. Then we'll look at Wilmer Flores for San Francisco. Now, he has been streaky lately as he's not hitting the ball very well, but he does have home run potential, and he's been hitting. Um, he's had some good fantasy days even without the home runs, but obviously a home run would definitely pay off here. But he's a nice and cheap, though he does face a tough matchup, as I do like the pitcher as well in the game. He definitely draws good metrics for this game. Then Christian Walker, if he does play today, which I do think he will end up playing, he's been hitting the ball decently well, pretty much on average throughout the season, and he is a good home run hitter as well. He does draw good metrics for this game and has a lot of home run potential if he does draw a start. Moving to second base, we'll look at Jose Altuve first. Now, Altuve has been really good since he's played this season. He hasn't played but 60 games, but he has been a little bit streaky recently, but he has home run and stolen base potential, which gives him a lot of upside. That said, he's very expensive, and that does cause a little bit of concern. But he did have a huge game a few games ago, which definitely gives us some potential here. I do think he's been a little bit streaky, though, and hasn't got quite as much upside as he had early in the season when he was, or at least when he first started playing. Thario Estrada is in play today as well for San Francisco. Now, like I said, I do like the pitcher for the Cubs a little bit, but he is a capable option today. He's hit the ball pretty well. He has some home run upside in this matchup, though he's not a huge home run hitter. He does manage to score, a decent chunk of fantasy points quite a bit, and he doesn't need a crazy game to pay off here as well. And then Brendan Lowe for Tampa Bay. He's kind of a contrarian option today. He's hitting the ball very well recently. He does draw home run metrics, and he has a nice upside in general here. He hasn't been super consistent, but right now he's hitting the ball pretty well, and so I think he's worth a look. Moving to third base at Alex Bregman. For Houston. He's hitting the ball very well recently with a 381 average over the last 10 games, averaging over 12, almost 12 fantasy points a game, and he's just getting a lot of good hits. He also has home run potential, but he doesn't need that to pay off here, though he is fairly expensive. I do think he's a viable option here on the slate. Jameer Candelario is a great option at third base. Now, he has not hit the ball well recently with just a 118 average over the last 10 games, but the last two games he's been hitting home runs, and it looks like he might be seeing the ball better, though he does tend to strike out sometimes, which is a little bit of a concern. He should be good to go today, and I think the Cubs are going to have a high scoring game, and he'll be a guy I really like on the slate. Eugenio Suarez for Seattle also in play. He's kind of a contrarian option. He's a little bit expensive, and he's not hit the ball particularly well throughout the season, but he does draw home run upside, and that's what we're looking at from his perspective. Moving to shortstops, we're going to look at Bobby Witt Jr. Um, for Kansas City. Now he's drawn some ups and downs throughout the season, but he's been hitting pretty good recently. He's had several home runs the last few games, and he does draw great metrics again on this slate. Though he does have tendency to have multi-hit games as well, which definitely gives us an advantage. Tim Anderson is very cheap, and he definitely has some capability today. He's not a home run hitter, but he's a guy that can get multi-hit games occasionally. And while he has been slumping throughout the season, he is hitting the ball decently well the last few, and so he's somebody I would consider on the slate, especially as a dirt cheap Hail Mary type play. Then we'll look at Crawford for Seattle. He has been really good recently with 4 home runs over the last 10. He hasn't really been a big home run hitter for the most part, but he is hitting the ball well right now, and he is getting walked quite a bit, and he's scoring RBIs. So while he's doing that and scoring a good amount of fantasy points, he's definitely in play and a nice option on this particular slate. And then we'll look at Jeremy Pena for Houston. He draws really good metrics today. He's very expensive, but he has a nice upside. Sorry, he's not super expensive. He's had a really big batting average, rather, and he's got nice upside here. He's not the most home run hitter guy, but he definitely manages to score fantasy points in a lot of different ways, and he has good metrics here. He's managing to get over 15 fantasy points quite a few times recently without a home run, in fact, so he's definitely in play on the slate and a good option at his price. Moving to outfielders, we'll start with Corbin Carroll, who is a core play for me today. He is hitting the ball very well with a 360 batting average over the last 10. He's averaging almost 13 fantasy points a game, has nice upside, home run potential, and even some stolen base upside as well, as he's been getting some stolen bases, and that's a nice advantage with him, and as well, especially at his price point. Then we'll look at Jordan Alvarez for the Houston Astros. Now he does need to, he's been hitting the ball very well, but I don't know if he's going to play today. He hurt his knee in the last on Sunday, so we'll have to wait and see. But if he does play today, he'll be somebody that I would definitely like, as he's hitting the ball very well, and he has nice home run potential in this game. Um, Julio Rodriguez is also a core play for Seattle. He's hitting the ball extremely good. 409 batting average over the last 10, including multi home runs. He's also got some stolen base potential, which he's been showing off. He doesn't need a home run to pay off here, but his price is very expensive. Normally, when your price is over $6,000, you just almost have to have a home run. But he's hitting the ball so well that he's been managing to score good fantasy games without it. He's a great option on the slate. Mitch Haniger for San Francisco is a contrarian option today. He's nice and cheap. He has been inconsistent throughout the season. He's also not a huge home run guy, but he has some nice potential for a good multi-hit game here, and I do think the metrics are very good for him, despite the inconsistencies. Austin Slater also in play. He's hit the ball very well over the last 10 games that he's played. He doesn't play every day, but he is somebody to consider today, as he's got some good metrics and has multi-hit potential on the slate. Again, not really a huge home run guy, but he is capable of a good game on this particular situation. Ian Happ is also a core play for me for the Cubs. Uh, he has hit the ball very well recently, and he tends to be streaky this season, but he's really hitting the ball well, and he's got nice home run metrics. He's also got some stolen base potential, which he's been flashing, which definitely boosts his fantasy perspective, and he doesn't need a home run to pay off, as he's hitting the ball very well. George Springer also in play for Toronto. He has also been pretty good recently, especially after this series that was in Colorado. He hit the ball very well there, but he's been hitting good before that as well, and he has nice metrics for this game. He's also just destroyed Oakland on the season, and so I do like his potential here. Jake Fraley in play for Cincinnati as well. This game is in Cincinnati, which gives him a boost, as some players hit pretty good. There's more home run potential there, and he's definitely got that home run upside today. He's been a little bit inconsistent throughout the season, but he draws nice metrics today. And then last but not least, Dominic Kazan for Seattle. He has been hitting the ball pretty well recently. He's only played 40 games so far this season, but he has some good metrics for a home run today, and so he's definitely somebody I would consider because he's had 2 home runs in the last 2 games. So, with that said, guys, let's get into some sub $3,000 players real quick. Austin Slater, Andrew Vaughn, and Alec Thomas, uh, respectively, are available in that price range. So do keep a lookout for those guys as well. With that said, guys, thank you for liking, commenting, subscribing. If you have any comments or questions, feel free to leave them below. And have a nice day, guys.